How's it going, y'all? I'm Judd Lienhard, speed and performance coach. I love lunges. I think they're an essential and highly valuable exercise for leg development, both size, strength, and performance. And today I'm going to go over with you my top 5 favorite lunge variations, what they do for you specifically, and how you can adjust those using different implements. Let's get rolling. Okay, I'm going to start with my all-time favorite leg movement, which is the simple walking lunge. Now, we can do these holding a barbell, holding kettlebells in the rack position, holding dumbbells, or another thing I love to do is a kettlebell pass-through lunge, which I can demonstrate in a short for you later. But the walking lunge, if I had to pick one leg exercise to do for the rest of my life, it would be the walking lunge for a number of reasons. It's one of the most complete leg exercises you can do. It challenges gait because you're required to locomote forward. And there's a lot of benefits just for muscular coordination and things that it brings too, especially for people as they get older. But I've been doing walking lunges for years, and I heavily attribute that to my leg development. But there's certain ways I like to do a walking lunge. First of all, let's start with what people normally do is they try to lunge very narrow in a straight line. Like they pretend like they're on a 2x4 and they try to stay on that narrow 2x4, and it's just uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially women, because they tend to have wider hips, so they have a larger Q angle, and this causes some pain on their hip and outside portion of the leg. So what I like to do is pretend like it's in a narrow squat position here, and that's about how far apart your feet are going to be in the lunge. You're going to take a big step forward, and as your foot hits the ground, trust me here, point your lead toe in slightly and point your back toe in slightly. The internal rotation of both feet pointing towards each other will create some compression, and you're going to feel a lot stronger and safer in the movement. So lunge under your shoulders, take a big step, see how my front foot is slightly forward. If I'm holding dumbbells, I like to take one dumbbell and turn it so it's closer to my lead leg. That's going to enhance balance. And then as I go down, I make sure I let my back knee bend. It's easier on my hip flexor, and let my front knee come forward here. Then I load up. Now, a lot of people, when they come out of this lunge, what they want to do is they want to stand up and step forward, but try not to do that. Try to gradually shift your knee forward, taking more pressure off the back foot as it goes to the front of your ball of your foot, and then come up and forward in one fluid motion right into the next step. Go down. Your knee should barely touch the ground, if at all. I always tell my kids that I train, pretend like there's, some of your mom's good china or something on the ground, and you want to touch the plate without breaking it. Up and forward in one fluid motion, and continue stepping through. So a lot of people like to arbitrarily separate step-ups from lunges, from split squats, but there's so many similarities in their benefits and what they do that I just categorize those all in lunge type movements. So you can use whatever term you want, like unilateral, single leg, whatever you want. But this is a low box deficit step up, and I just put it in my lunge category. So on a day that I'm gonna do legs, I'll either do a split squat, a step up, or a lunge, because they're so similar. So this is one of my favorite lunges, step ups, is a deficit step up. So the cool thing about this is you start up here. Now it's a combination between a lunge and a step up, like a front foot elevated rear lunge, which I love. But when you step back here, make sure that your front knee goes forward and your butt goes back. So you don't just want to step and crash down here. You don't want your knee to drift backwards, okay? So as you step back, you're gonna have your knee come forward, your butt's gonna go back, and right away, you're gonna start to feel tension develop in your quad and your glute here. So when I step down, I always tell my kids that I train, pretend like there's a box of kittens under your back foot. You don't wanna crush the kittens, right? So you just don't wanna plop down, right? So you're gonna touch down softly here. And then now the cool part is, this is the part of the movement where it gets harder, but there's also part of movement where you have some assistance from your back leg. So it's kind of a form of variable resistance. And that's gonna let you get a great stretch in your quad and your glute. And then you're gonna help yourself out a little bit from this down leg if you need it. But by the time you get up here where you're stronger, your leg's gonna lift the ground, so it gets a little bit harder at the top. So just knee forward, butt back, don't crush the kittens, stretch out your glute, feel stretch in your quad. Most of your weight is on your front foot here. If you wanna get a little bit more work with your Achilles and your ankle, your heel can actually float here, and then you're forced to keep your heel level with the box. You're gonna get a lot of Achilles benefit here from that. You just can't go quite as heavy. So a lot of people are like, oh, get your heel on the box, you need heel support. Well, if you're always supporting your heel, then your Achilles is never getting work, and you're just creating a weak Achilles. So every once in a while, you wanna deload a little bit, work that Achilles. If you wanna go a little heavier, support your heel. Same concept here, step up. One of my all-time favorite lunge movements. Okay, the next movement I'm gonna go over is the Bulgarian split squat, or the rear foot elevated split squat. Some people call them a single leg squat. So I said earlier that the walking lunge was maybe, if I had to pick one exercise to do for the rest of my life, it'd be the walking lunge. But the best leg exercise is the Bulgarian split squat, in my opinion. And just because the walking lunge carries so many other health benefits as well for coordination and balance and things like that. But the best exercise to grow your legs for athletic performance, for strength, I really believe is the Bulgarian split squat. There's a lot of different ways to do them. I'll kind of go over the setup real quick, and there's a lot of different implements you can hold while doing them. So a great way to do it is if you have access to a safety bar, so you can do a Hatfield squat and hang on to something. You can go really heavy that way. I love to just hold dumbbells by my side. You can do them with a single dumbbell, so you're offloaded, so you work more oblique. You can do them ipsilateral, so same side, so you can be a little bit stronger. You can do them with a band or a band plus dumbbells, so you get a variable resistance. There's a lot of different ways to do these. You can do them with a kettlebell in a rack position, and then your torso will be more upright, get a little bit more quad benefit that way. I like to use a little bit more glute for these, so I hold dumbbells and lean forward. And obviously, the further out your leg is, the more glutes and hamstrings you're going to get. The closer it is, the more quads you're going to get. So you can change them up, change the flavors so they can fit you the best. So we all know this by now. Hopefully, a great way to start to find your distance is just to sit here and put your leg out. For me, and that's the starting point. I like to move my heel back a little bit because I like a little bit more quad in my Bulgarians with the forward lean. So I also get my glute. But once you're here, and then a lot of people when they do it, they feel like their back foot needs to be directly behind them. So their feet on the frontal plane are really narrow and they feel very unstable. But just like with the walking lunge, I like to go ahead and put my back foot out a little bit so my feet end up about shoulder width apart and I feel a lot more stable. Kind of the same concept. I kind of point my front toe in just a little bit and it gives me a lot more stability. So after I find my distance here, I put my foot out about shoulder width. Now, what I like to do, if you notice my back foot, some people do them like that, and that's fine. I love to use a roller or a bench that I can pull on with my toe right there. And that kind of encourages through a tactile response. It keeps me from wanting to actually sit back on that foot. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I like to pull on the pad with my toe. Now, when I start down, I think about these two knees and I make sure they go in opposite directions. So my back knee goes back, but my front knee goes forward here. And then I get a nice split. I go down as far as I can comfortably, feel the tension in my glutes and hamstrings, have a nice tripod foot here, and I just drive my hips forward on the way up. So knee forward, get as low as you can comfortably, and back up. One of the best overall leg exercises there is. Okay, my next favorite lunge or lunge variation is the split jump or lunge jump. It's great because it adds an element of power, but it's very accessible to most people and can be easily scaled either by trying to jump higher, hold more weight, or do a faster eccentric and amortization phase where you come out of the hole faster. But even for people who are older or coming off an injury, a lot of people can do this plyometric movement. The cool thing about it is it not only works power, you can create a higher eccentric overload because when you land and you go down, your muscles still experience a lot of force even if you're not holding a significant amount of weight. So I start with kind of the same setup I would for a split squat or a walking lunge. I let my front foot go down, making sure I keep most of my weight on that front foot until my knee almost touches the ground. And then I can either double arm or I can alternate arm and use my arms to jump, switch feet in the air and land with the other foot forward. And then what I normally do is I like to catch myself and hold it for the first couple reps, make sure I'm in a good position before I then continue down and load. See, I'm kind of catching at a high thing. And then as I get more comfortable, I can get more fluid with it, taking my time. A lot of people try to rush the eccentric on these or shortchange it and start going like that. And these can be easily scaled with the things I listed, or by doing a scissor jump where you jump, switch your legs in the air, and then land in the same position that you started with. Much more difficult and also a great movement. Okay, the last movement I'm going to go over here, it's very similar to another favorite of mine, which is a Cossack squat. I didn't include those because technically I guess maybe that is a squat. I don't know what comments I would get if I included that or not. But Cossack squats are one of my all-time favorite movements. This is very similar. And this is the only frontal plane movement that is included in my group of favorites. So I think it's important that we include at least one movement on another plane. So these are foot elevated side lunges. And the reason I like to elevate a foot here is it's a lot easier for a lot of people, and they can get better depth here when they go down. And it's not as much shearing force on the landing. The step can actually be as high as you need it or want it to be. So you can do a step that's about knee height here if your mobility is really lacking. But I like to just use a bumper plate, which is a couple inches off the ground. I'm normally about one body length away from the plate. When I step forward, I make sure that I'm slightly behind the plate, because if I wasn't when I stepped, it would be very awkward here and my heel would want to come off the ground, which is fine for some people, but it really causes a lot of quad pressure for other people. So I like to start slightly behind the plate, far off to the side. Then I lunge forward onto it, taking my hips with me, making sure my knee stays out, go down as low as I can comfortably, try to push back to the starting position, keeping most of my weight on my outside foot before I then go back into it, pushing myself back towards the direction of the plate. How was my form, Amy Bear? Was it good? Was my form good, sweetie? Yeah. She's like, Dad, that sucked. That sucked bad. And that's the foot elevated lateral lunge. Okay, that wraps up my top 5 favorite lunges. If you like what you saw and want to get more content like this, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys again soon.